Things didn't begin that night. Everybody joined in the final moments, and they realized that whatever had happened had come to an end. They had no idea what had come to an end, but that situation felt so familiar. Or was it personal? Were they trying to see if there was a way out for someone in the same intricacy? The sorrow had already settled in, long before the room grew quiet. They arrived at its stillness, like stepping into a house where something irreversible has happened. No bodies, no events, only the dense air of absence, the kind that knows and waits. Everything was heavy, strange, but undeniably familiar. Not like grief in motion, but grief at rest. Sadness became a habit. As everybody felt what happened, the silence in the room remembered something it couldn't bear to say aloud. A fatal destination that is no longer scary, because when it comes, and what comes next, are so predictable and certain. They didn't feel pain exactly. They felt the place where pain had lived, the echo of what once mattered. No faces, no voice, just the residue of having cared too deeply, too long ago. They sat in it, because there was nowhere else to go. There was no progress, no arc, only presence, a kind of resignation that doesn't ask for healing. It simply exists, still and absolute. Time didn't move forward. It unfolded slowly to keep their company. And yet, within all that stillness, there was a fragile tenderness, not hope, but something quieter, a hand on the back that doesn't promise anything. No one said anything. No one had to. The room was full of ghosts, not the kind that hunted, the kind that was so concerned with their own melancholy, they didn't even pay attention to their existence. And when they did, they shifted their gaze with indifference back to their main problem. Everybody, without realizing, began to wait with them. They were part of it too. The air seemed lighter, the room less closed. Meaning brushed the edge of things, not in full but enough to suggest it hadn't disappeared completely. That maybe even in the depths of quiet suffering, something could rise. Not escape, but elevate, just slightly, just long enough to feel the outline of grace. It didn't last. Before it could become anything more than a breath, it folded back into itself. The weight returned as if they had asked for too much too soon, and they did. One should never ask. One should act, but when the hands are full, asking seems better than not acting. The quietest moments of life are where the trials are the most loud, vivid, and effective. There was no cruelty in it, no violence, only certainty. The kind of certainty found in gravity, in dusk, in the sound of your own name when no one else is speaking. And then, once again, it rose, but this time differently. There was no hesitation. No brittle spark of hope waiting to be extinguished. This ascent carried the memory of the earlier failure, and it brought that failure with it. That first attempt had broken under the weight of itself, collapsed back into silence. But this one had learned how to rise without forgetting. They lifted, firm, aware, not asking for permission this time. It moved forward with a quiet force, not violent, but undeniable. There was resistance, of course, moments of doubt that tried to pull it back down. Old weights reached out like hands from the deep. But the motion held. It persisted. It was not a triumphant flight. It was a climb through the weathered air. And as it pushed upward, something opened. Clarity, a sense of rightness, even if temporary. They were still carrying the ache, but now they carried it with purpose. There came, briefly, a moment of softness, almost romantic, as if In all this ascent, it had caught a glimpse of something tender, the perfume of a night once known, the memory of warmth from a time when it still believed in warmth. But it dissolved quickly. Reality reasserted itself firmly. The sweetness diluted, like ink in water. Not gone, but no longer whole. Still, they did not fall. It didn't shatter like before. It steadied, it settled, into something more honest, something more livable. The movement didn't end with an answer. It ended with a breath, a presence, a space cleared within the ache where they could finally rest. Not in peace, but in truth. Because when truth matures, it becomes peace.